But Daniel had a habit, a quiet one that almost no one noticed. He avoided small problems. You see it every day. The front step of his house developed this thin little crack. Every morning, on his way to work, he'd see it and think, "I'll fix it later." At his job, when the workload started to pile up, he'd just work a little faster, a little harder, but he never asked for help. "It's not that bad," he'd tell himself. And his health? The shortness of breath, the late nights, skipping his workouts. He just brushed it off. "I'm fine," he'd mutter. None of these things felt urgent. They were just small cracks. Then one afternoon, his young nephew Eli came to visit. Eli was one of those kids, curious, observant, always asking the questions that adults try to dodge. As they walked up to the house, Eli pointed right at the step. "Uncle Dan," he asked, "why is this step broken?" Daniel just smiled. "Oh, it's just a small crack, buddy." But Eli, with all the wisdom of a child, frowned and said something that stuck. "Small things break big things?" Daniel laughed it off, but those words echoed in his mind. Weeks went by. A heavy rainstorm hit the town, and that small crack, it widened. Water seeped underneath the foundation, day after day. One morning, Daniel was rushing out, and his foot slipped on that very step. He fell hard. Lying there, his leg throbbing with a nasty bruise, he stared at the crack. It wasn't small anymore. It was big, ugly, and it had finally demanded his attention. While he was recovering, Daniel had a lot of time to think. He started seeing other cracks in his life. The goals he'd put off, the worries he'd never spoken aloud, the habits that once seemed so harmless. And he remembered Eli's words, "Small things break big things." So Daniel decided to make a change. The very next day, he went out and fixed that step. It wasn't a perfect job, but it was solid. It was proper. Then at work, he finally had a conversation with his manager about his impossible workload. And to his complete surprise, they gave him the help he needed. He even scheduled a doctor's appointment. The doctor found an issue, something small that was easy to treat now, but would have been dangerous if he'd ignored it. Every single one of these actions felt uncomfortable at first, but with each one came a wave of relief. Months later, Daniel invited Eli back over. They stood on the front step, now smooth and solid under their feet. Eli jumped on it once, then looked up at his uncle with a proud grin. "It's strong now," he said. Daniel smiled back. "Because I fixed it early." Years passed. Daniel didn't become famous or wildly rich, but his life found a new kind of wealth, stability, health, and a deep sense of peace. He learned a simple but powerful lesson that day, lying on the ground next to a broken step. Problems don't just disappear when we ignore them. They grow silently in the dark until one day they demand pain as payment. The truth is, facing our problems while they're still small is an act of courage. It's about fixing the small cracks before they become catastrophic collapses. A little bit of courage today can prevent a world of suffering tomorrow. So, what's that small crack in your life that you've been ignoring? Maybe today is the day to fix it. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more.